Hey, welcome in. Stinkin Truth Podcast. Mark Schlereth alongside Mike Evans. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. Numbers continuing to grow, so we truly appreciate you. Mike, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. You had a fun week.
I did.
Why
I did.
don't you share with everyone, do what you do better than anybody else I know, and that is name dropping.
Oh, I thought you were going to say talking about myself.
Well, you're right.
I am my favorite subject.
Besides that,
I am my favorite subject.
If you're not going to talk about Mark Schlereth, who will?
Right, nobody. That's exactly right. So I went out at Monday after we did the show. Jumped on a plane, went out to L.A. My daughters live out in L.A. Went to the premiere of Receiver, which is on Netflix, but it's produced by Omaha Productions. And then on Wednesday had a long meeting with the Omaha Productions people because, you're always looking for kind of what's next and the other content that you can provide. And so we had kind of one of those exploratory developmental meetings, but it was cool. I took my daughters to the Netflix premiere, of Receiver, and it was fun. Peyton Manning was there. I got to see Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I've had in a meeting before, Justin Jefferson, who taught me how to do the gritty. You've seen, I don't know if you've seen me do the gritty. You know what we'll do? You know what? I'll send my gritty video out. We can do this. We can send the gritty video out to the producers.
Yes.
And
they'll
have
put it
them insert my gritty video.
Right now.
Okay. Insert gritty video with Justin Jefferson in 3, 2, 1.
To heel, to heel, heel to heel.
Well, you gotta do your arms too?
Well, you just going back and forth.
Okay.
Swing your arms back and forth.
And then you just go faster. Yeah, and he's 30 minutes.
So got to see Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams. Got to talk to Devontae for a little while. Who else was out there? There were a bunch of guys. There was a bunch.
You saw George Kittle?
George Kittle, yeah, George Kittle and his family. Got to talk to George. Juszczyk got to talk to Juszczyk. So always.
Wow, a fullback sighting out in the wild. That's a rare occurrence, like a Bigfoot sighting.
Yeah, he's not really a fullback. He's kind of a hybrid running back / tight end.
Yeah, but fullbacks used to be cool. So when I say that, I'm saying that's a compliment.
Yes.
When I call him a fullback, that's a compliment.
All right. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with fullbacks being a compliment. Obviously, Peyton Manning. Got to talk to Peyton for a while.
So this is last year. It was the quarterback show that Peyton did, but then the quarterbacks didn't like all the behind-the-scenes scrutiny.
Right. Yes.
So they had to find the next position group that has no problem with scrutiny.
Right.
And that's the diva wide receivers.
Yeah, they couldn't. These guys couldn't wait. I mean, they had guys reaching out to them right and left going, no, pick me, pick me, pick me. Right? So I'm sure there's a bunch of guys that were just all really up in arms about not being on the Receiver premiere.
You're a big Amon-Ra St. Brown fan.
Yeah, he's a football player.
Is he maybe now, with Cooper Kupp having dealt with some injuries, is he maybe the greatest or the best underappreciated, fly under the radar receiver out there in the NFL right now?
That is a great question, because I think one of the things that really makes me like a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, there's so many reasons to like him, right? But I like receivers that really kind of set tones. Like, he's salty. Like, he plays that way. And there's only been a few guys in my lifetime that I look at the receiver position and think, boy, that dude kind of leads his team. Like, that dude kind of sets a tone. Like, that guy, like, usually it's not that dude that sets the toughness tone for your team, sends the salty factor, whatever that, like, I look back to Steve Smith Sr. Like, you want to talk about setting the just setting the toughness tone for a football team. Hines Ward.
I was just going to say Hines Ward, yeah.
Hines Ward set the kind of toughness tone for the football team.
Julian Edelman?
Yeah, I think Julian was that same type of guy who just really came out there and really just kind of led his football team. I think Keenan Allen has done that for the Chargers for years. So there's just
Larry Fitzgerald?
I don't know about Larry was just a great player, and I'm not saying that he wasn't tough, but just like Larry's the nice, like Larry's super nice, like I'm sure to me Amon-Ra's super nice, but on the field he's not. Mm-hmm. He's just like he's got some dick in him, like,
right?
Can you say that? That probably didn't come out right.
Like, I think we understood what you meant,
like,
but
he's kind of
he's
snicker, kind of a dick.
I did snicker a little bit inside. That's what she said.
But you know what I mean.
But like the ultimate compliment I think you can give a wide receiver is he's a football player.
Yes,
and there aren't many of them.
Yeah,
in today's NFL.
Right. Yeah,
Cooper Kupp,
Puka Nacua with the Rams also cut from that cloth, but Amon-Ra just is tough. I just read an article the other day that said, he had the pec injury in week 4, and he actually completely tore his pec off of his. I don't know what your pec attaches to. Your pec bone attaches.
Well, whatever it attaches to, I'm sure it hurts when it's ripped off.
Yeah, I'm sure that it does. But he played throughout the season. Normally, if you tear a pec, you go in for, surgery. That anyhow. Do you know like the story of his family, like the Amon-Ra and Equanimous St. Brown?
I don't.
And his dad, John St. Brown, who is great. He's just awesome. He was Mr. like Universe back in the 70s. I talked to his dad for a while. It just is. But they're just a real. Just Google them, man.
Did you guys share weightlifting techniques?
Yeah, we did talk about weightlifting.
Of course you
did. Diet, weightlifting.
Yeah. Let me tell you, Mr. Universe, how it's done.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I am huge right now. Yeah, so it was great to kind of catch up with them. But it was kind of cool just to be around. And I will say this, like, just the change of what constitutes the NFL today versus in my day, and I'm old, I get that, right? It's fine. But like you go to a premiere like this, these guys they're stars. Like you used to be known simply in very small football circles, whereas now you're known in celebrity circles. And your whole family is there dressed to the nines, like potentially Netflix. Hey, if we dress right and act right, Netflix is going to do a reality show on us, right? I mean, it feels that way. It's
America loves the Kittles.
Right. It's just so much bigger than it's ever been, and it is interesting to just kind of watch that happen.
NFL's king, man.
Oh gosh. I mean, you are preaching to the choir. It's unbelievable.
So the NFL, one of the other reasons the NFL is king is because there's great parity. And one of the cool things about every NFL season is you can almost count that upwards of 5 to 6 teams that missed the playoffs the year before will make the playoffs this year. So let's have a little game here, shall we? I'll give you 5. 5. Just 5. Or you want 6? Because you think there might be 6? Oh, we'll do 6.
6. Let's do 3 in each. 3 in the AFC, 3 in the NFC. How about that?
All right.
Start
with the AFC. Give me 3 AFC teams that missed the playoffs a year ago that will be in the playoffs this year, and who will be the 3 that made the playoffs a year ago that will be replaced?
All right. Ooh, so I got to also put the replacements in there. All right. I'm going to go
for the record, here are the teams that made the playoffs in the AFC last year. Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, Houston, Cleveland, Miami, and Pittsburgh. Go.
All right, so I'm going to say the Jets are in the playoffs.
Okay.
Aaron Rodgers stays healthy. That defense is legit. Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks of, forget about our generation, any generation. He is that good with his 4 MVPs. Obviously playoffs and only having one Super Bowl has not, that is never, like, that's always one of those things. And we talked about this in the last podcast about the big boy table. He's still one of the most accomplished, one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen play. There's a difference between sitting at the championship table and being one of the best quarterbacks ever. 4 MVPs, one of the best I've ever seen play. He's healthy this year. They go, and I think they're a talented young team. They addressed their offensive line. They've got some talented receivers. They've got talented backs. I think they go. I don't think there's any question.
All right.
I think, again, this goes back to health. A healthy Joe Burrow in Cincinnati with that defense, and I think they're another good defensive team that probably is undervalued or underrated on the defensive side of the ball. I think Cincinnati goes. And then ultimately, I said 3, right? I said I had to pick 3.
So Jacksonville, Indianapolis, start right there.
I don't until I see Anthony Richardson stay healthy and not rely on athleticism but rely on being a quarterback. Which he's got the capability of doing, but until I see it, I mean, he started 4 games last year and got bounced in all 4 games, and then had ending season shoulder injury or shoulder surgery.
Chargers.
Wow. Chargers with Jim Harbaugh. What? Now, Jacksonville started the season at 8-3 last year and then fell apart. I'll go Jacksonville.
Okay.
I'll go Jacksonville.
That's fair. Okay. Now the fun part. Give me the 3 teams that made the playoffs a year ago that miss them this year.
All right. Well, I think it'll be easy. In the AFC North, Cleveland and Pittsburgh both out.
Wow. Pittsburgh, a team that just always seems to find a way to make the playoffs. They had how many quarterbacks? They had Mason Plumlee by the end of the season. Mike Tomlin still found a way to drag them into the playoffs.
Mason Plumlee?
Mason Plumlee, excuse me.
You trying to get me on? Oh, really?
I was thinking of.
You thinking Nuggets basketball?
I was thinking about Nuggets basketball and free agency. I love Mason Plumlee. No.
Hook shot.
No. Mason Randolph.
Yeah.
Yes. Right?
Randolph?
No.
What is this? Mortimer? Hey, Randolph.
Wait, what am I doing? No.
Mason Rudolph.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Sorry.
Lord have mercy.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay.
That's how much I think about the Pittsburgh chances of making the playoffs this year. But no, okay. So, and Cleveland, Deshaun Watson, you
Deshaun.
You think he's done?
How many games has that guy played since he's been back?
All right, so
12?
he's done. You're saying he's done.
And then he had the shoulder. I think I know he had shoulder surgery, but he had like a broken shoulder.
So Deshaun Watson never gets back to where he was in Houston.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. So who are the other teams in it?
All right, so you go Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and now you got to choose between Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, Houston, and Miami.
Ooh.
Now keep in mind, you got the Jets.
I've got the Jets.
So does that knock out a Miami or Buffalo even?
Yeah. Wow.
Because otherwise, you've got 3 AFC East teams.
You're not knocking out
in the playoffs.
You're not knocking out Kansas City.
Nope.
Yeah, I'll knock out Miami.
Ooh, Coach Capri Pants isn't going to like that when he hears this.
Well, I mean,
what's he gonna do about
buy
it?
some pants that hit the ground. Buy pants that reach the ground, and then we can talk about your playoff opportunities. How
So
about that?
Miami's out.
Miami out, gone.
Why is Buffalo more of a lock to make the playoffs in your mind than Miami?
I hadn't thought about it that deeply. I'll be honest with you.
Okay, then you can think about it if you want to change your mind.
I do believe more in Josh Allen than I do Tua. But with that said, I think losing, Gabe Davis, I think losing Stephon Diggs, I think, and now
Lost some guys on defense, too.
lost some guys on defense. But I think offensively, this to me is an opportunity to quit relying so much on your quarterback. And I think that's been an issue with your franchise, is that it's been like, well, let's just throw the ball. We got receivers, we've got the quarterback. I think you're going to have to be better constructed as an offense, and you're going to have to be better at calling and setting up offense, orchestrating an offense as opposed to calling plays. And so I'm going in that direction with the coaching staff, and I'm going to say Buffalo comes out of there. But boy, that's a tough one.
If we're going on the assumption the Jets make the playoffs, I'm going to say Miami makes the playoffs. Buffalo out.
Really, you're bouncing Buffalo.
I'm bouncing Buffalo.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay. All right. So we have the Jets, Cincinnati, Jacksonville making the playoffs. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and since it's your name on the show, we'll go Miami missing the playoffs.
All right.
In the NFC,
like
your playoff teams a year ago were San Francisco, Dallas, Detroit, Tampa, Philadelphia, the Rams, and Green Bay. Can you come up with 3 teams in the NFC?
Okay, so was it Philadelphia and Dallas? Mm-hmm. I'll keep those guys in.
San
Detroit
Francisco
and Green Bay, I'll keep those in.
Boy,
I can't come up with 3 teams.
I don't think so.
San Francisco, Los Angeles. Wow.
Tampa. So let's say Tampa out. Rams out.
Wait, let me put in. I'd put in Atlanta. Let me put in Atlanta. Wow.
Boy, that's tough.
It is tough
because you think of the team. People are talking up Chicago as a playoff team this year. Wow, look at that! Look, hey man, Chicago. That's stink, not me.
There's I've seen that a lot.
Mark, they got weapons in Chicago now.
I know. I mean, here's the crazy thing. I get this from Chicago people all the time. Now we drafted the quarterback, and look at the weapons. Dunze. We got DJ Moore. We got Keenan Allen.
Pretty impressive group.
We got Cole Kmet. Woo! We're going all the way. Let me just tell you, this is not fantasy football. This is reality football. There's a big difference. Just because you've created the best fantasy team, like when people say on paper, I had a guy say that to me that I was doing Colin Cowherd. I was out in L.A. On paper. And what do I always say when people say on paper? If the games were played on paper, I'd have spent a lot less time on an operating table. They're not. I don't buy into let's create. Here's what I don't like about Chicago. Okay? This is what I don't like. I don't like building a team from the outside and then building it inward. I like building a team from the inside and spreading out. And so I believe in line of scrimmage play first. Show me a team that can dominate the line of scrimmage both offensively and defensively, and I'll show you a team that will win 85% of their games. I don't know that about Chicago. So I don't care how many weapons you surround a young quarterback with. It doesn't make them a playoff team. Would they win 7 games last year? They'll probably win 7 again this year. So I don't buy into that. So no, not. So I got Atlanta, right?
Yep. Minnesota?
No.
New Orleans?
New Orleans. I actually like New Orleans. I'll go. Okay, if I go New Orleans and Atlanta, we dump Tampa.
Yeah.
Man. We could dump.
You got to dump the Rams.
Got to dump the Rams.
Yep.
Now I need to put one more in.
Yep.
Okay, I would. Let me put in
Seattle.
Seattle
over the Rams. But Seattle would take the Rams spot.
Okay, Seattle, and then I would.
Atlanta would take Tampa's spot.
Right.
Now you got to find one more. Not only one more, but You
I took
took New Orleans,
New Orleans.
and who are you going to take out?
Would take out Green Bay.
That's not going to happen.
Well, all
right. How about we change the exercise
to
around
5?
No. You get 6, but you can do 5 in the AFC, 4 in the AFC. You can do as many as you want. You're not restricted by 3 and 3. Because I think I see far more room for turnover in the AFC.
I do too. I would agree with you on that. Okay, so if we're leaving Green Bay, let's say we're taking. I got to get to 6.
Yes.
So I'll take out. I'll put Atlanta in there. Take out Tampa.
If you don't want to do any more in the NFC, you don't have to.
And then I would have to come up with 4.
5 in the AFC.
5? Oh yeah, 5. 1 plus 4 is 5. So 1 plus 5 is 6
in the game that we're playing.
Gosh, that's why you are. All right, I'm going to go 2 in the NFC. I'll go Seattle over Los Angeles.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
So now you get a 4th team now in the.
Now I got to go back to I've got my little AFC, NFC here. So my 4th team, I'll go the Chargers.
Chargers.
Yep.
No more Chargers going to Charger.
No. And that's going to be it. Chargers are going to be interesting this year, right? Because you talk about weapons, they've decided to get rid of all their this is a case study. Remember when Jim Harbaugh came out and said, tip of the spear? He said, people talk about we let go of all our weapons. Because offensive linemen are weapons. As far as I'm concerned, they're the tip of the spear. I was like, yes, tip of the spear. But if I put the Chargers in,
who are you taking out?
Then I got to take.
Now you got to take Buffalo out.
Then
right?
you got to take Buffalo out, right? You got to. I'm not taking Baltimore out,
right? Because you love Lamar Jackson.
I do love Lamar Jackson, and I'm not taking Houston out. One, because I think Houston's really good, and I do love C.J. Stroud, and I love what they built there, and I love DeMeco Ryans. But I just look at the rest of that division, like Tennessee or Indy. Nah.
All right, so 6 teams that missed the playoffs last year get in this year, if you follow the averages over the years. Jets, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, Chargers, Atlanta, and Seattle.
Yes.
Okay? The 6 teams that are out that made the playoffs a year ago: Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Miami, Buffalo, the Rams, and Tampa. Woohoo.
Man.
Now, that's the game we played. If you just had to say, in reality, how many teams that made the playoffs a year ago miss them this year? I don't think there's going to be nearly as much turnover as we've seen before.
I do think Atlanta wins the NFC South.
Okay.
So I do think that will be turnover. I do think the Jets will get into the playoffs. So that's going to happen.
And Cincinnati, if Burrow's healthy?
If Burrow's healthy, I do think Cincinnati will get in there. So I think there's probably 3.
3.
Which would make it much easier. Cleveland be out. Who cares?
Wow, Cleveland.
What?
Why you?
They're a factory of sadness.
Why are you crapping on Cleveland? They won 11 games with Joe Flacco
with
last
5
year.
quarterbacks last year.
And they get Deshaun Watson back.
Well, hopefully
you think he's done.
Hopefully they got 5 other quarterbacks that can play in his place.
Why is Deshaun Watson done in your mind?
He's had injuries. He's had off-the-field trauma, self-inflicted to be sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't feel sorry for him. He got off easy, as far as I'm concerned. Probably shouldn't be playing in the NFL, as far as I'm concerned, based upon the shit he pulled. Yeah. So,
but he was. It wasn't that long ago, Mark. He was arguably top 5, top 3 quarterback in the entire NFL. Are you telling me he just? I get the reasons you're giving, but you're telling me that's enough to fall off the cliff so much that you're saying he's done.
Okay, so what? So if you've watched what's happened, it's like, okay, so let me you've watched what's happened the last couple of years, right? The time off that he had, coupled with the injuries that he's had, and the way he's played, what's more likely? That all of a sudden he goes back to the form he had as a young player before he had the off-season issues and allegations and criminal charges and and civil charges. Do you think he goes back to that, the pre that guy, or do you think he stays more of where he is right now?
You know what? If he was 32, 33, I might.
How
agree.
old is he?
He's only going to be 29 this year. He hasn't hit 30 yet.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
he'll turn 29 in September. He's in 2020. This is a guy who threw for 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 7 picks. That was just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of things that have gone on since a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So if I'm betting, it'd be like if I'm betting on. Well, I mean, this just goes with players in general. If you're betting on a guy like that's injured and has been oft injured and hasn't played well, and it's been going on for a couple of years, I'm betting that trend continues more than I'm betting on all of a sudden miraculous, redevelopment, so to speak. So, I mean, that's kind of how I would figure that out.
Real quick, I want to circle back. You were talking about Harbaugh, and I know you love the tip of the spear type thing, offense. It is going to be fascinating to watch this year because Bill Barnwell, very respected guy at ESPN, put together his ranking of all 32 NFL teams and how their skill position groups. I know that bothers you, but just play along.
Okay.
Running backs, wide receivers, tight end, the skill position guys, where each team's skilled position group ranks.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, Barnwell has had the Chargers at 5th and 6th with their skill position guys. This year, dead last, 32nd. So you want to talk about a great experiment that's going to play out in year one. Jim Harbaugh taking a team that was widely believed to have top 10 skill position guys the last 2 years to all of a sudden stripping it clean and having now maybe the worst group of skill position guys.
Yeah.
Does it work? Does it not work? It's going to be fascinating to watch.
It will be. I think and it goes back to we've got a quarterback that we think is one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the National Football League, right? A guy that can operate from the pocket, a guy that in his first 4 years has set records for completions and yardage and, all kinds of records. I don't know exactly what all the records are, but I know it's yardage is one of the more yards than any other quarterback has ever thrown for in their first 4 years. And we're talking about, Mahomes, and we're talking about Brady, and we're talking about, Montana, and we're talking like it's pretty remarkable when you look at that part of it. And now all of a sudden, the weapons are "quote unquote" gone, and it's the conversation you and I have all the time on this podcast: is do receivers make the quarterback, or do the quarterback make the receivers? Well, right now we're going to find out, right? Yeah. We're going to find out, and Jim's going to run the ball. I like Dobbins, I like Gus Edwards, I like what they did in their backfield, but they're going to run the ball, and we're going to find out if you can take young, unproven receivers, and all of a sudden those guys can make their mark in a play action kind of, run the ball first type of offense. We're fixing to find out.
It'll be fascinating because this is a copycat league. It always has been. And Harbaugh, being the influential guy that he is, coming from Michigan, if he comes in year one and changes and wins with a model like that, where he's basically saying, psh, build around a quarterback, build around the offensive line, and I don't need to really invest as much in skill position guys. Yeah. You watch how quickly the rest of the NFL copies that.
Well, I've always thought that we've jumped the shark as far as paying receivers and the overall value of the wide receiver, and I've said this a million times, and I think you agree with me, is that, in a game where everybody's dependent on one another, the most dependent position in football is wide receiver. I mean, like 10 other guys have to do their job exceptionally well for you to even get the opportunity to sniff a football coming your way. Now, you got to do your job too. So everybody's got to do their job, but you're dependent on the snap getting to the quarterback. You're dependent on the offensive line blocking. You're dependent on the running backs blocking. You're depending on, you're running your route and beating your guy, but you're depending on the underneath route drawing coverage away so they can't double team. Like, you're depending on a lot of things, and then you're depending on the quarterback setting up, seeing you, right, and delivering a strike that you can catch. There's a lot of things going on for you to touch a ball. So how all of a sudden did the receiver become the most important position in football? I have no clue. They have done a great job of pulling the wool over all your eyes and making themselves. I think it's fantasy football. It comes right back to fantasy football.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Because it's such an important part of our fantasy football team, then it's got to be a super important part of the football team.
Right.
And real football team.
And I think even the general managers have been duped by fantasy football because they're not that bright either. Right?
Okay. All right. You managed to piss off Cleveland fan and 32 NFL general managers.
Dude, they pay millions.
Well done, Stink.
They pay millions of dollars to evaluate the draft, and they're still getting an F. They're 50% failure rate.
Can't argue with that.
No, you can't. No, they're not that bright either. Hey, it's a game developed by PE majors for PE majors. Genius Football Mutually Exclusive Events. Don't forget it. For everybody involved in the Stink Truth Podcast, we appreciate you. Back with you guys. Actually, we're on hiatus next week, I think.
Is that what we're calling it?
We're going to go on a hiatus.
A hiatus for a week.
Well, I got to go to London for a wedding.
Yeah. And I'm
another shrimp on the barbie.
That's not London. That's Australia. You always do
Same
that.
Freaking thing.
Big Ben.
Big Ben.
Enjoy your fish and chips and have a few pints next week.
All right, I will.
And then we'll be back the week after that.
All right, sounds good, buddy.
All right, sounds
Later.
good.
Hey, for everybody involved in the Stinky Truth, we thank you so much. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure you don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel for more content just like this. If you want to see more of our videos, you can also be sure to check out our playlist. Let us know exactly what you think in the comments below. We appreciate you guys so much for being a part of that.
Don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.